Have you ever wondered why, in the very season when you are praying the hardest, heaven feels quiet, and people seem to drift away? Why opportunities close? Why rooms you once belonged to no longer feel like home? Why your name is no longer called? You look around, and it feels as if God has hidden you, tucked you into a corner of life where no one sees, no one applauds, no one reaches. But what if this silence is not rejection, but preparation? What if this hidden place is the workshop where God shapes the ones he intends to raise? In this message, I want to speak directly to you, the one who feels forgotten, overlooked, or quietly pushed into the background. This video will unfold a truth that many believers never recognize. Before God reveals a calling, he often conceals a person. The hidden season is not wasted time. It is divine construction. It is where God strengthens your character, purifies your motives, heals old wounds, and prepares you for a weight you are not yet ready to carry. Together, we will walk through the spiritual reasons behind this silent season, explore biblical stories of those God hid before he used them, and discover how you can respond with wisdom, patience, and hope. By the end, you will see your hidden place not as exile, but as evidence of God's intention to elevate you. First, God hides you to shape what no one else can see. There are seasons when God pulls you away from the noise, not because you have failed, but because he wants to work on the parts of you that applause can never touch. You may feel as if life has placed you on a shelf, unseen and unused. But in truth, you have been placed on heaven's anvil, where God shapes your inner life, your patience, your integrity, and your reliance on him alone. Hiddenness is not punishment, it is surgery. And God does his deepest work behind closed doors. Remember David, though he was anointed king, he was immediately sent back to the quiet fields to tend sheep. Scripture says, "Man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart." David's heart had to be refined in the solitude of the pasture before he could carry the crown. In the same way, God is forming something in you away from public view strength that fame cannot give, humility that failure cannot take, and purity that influence cannot corrupt. Second, God's silence is often his protection. There are moments when the quiet around you feels unbearable, prayers that seem unanswered, relationships that drift away, opportunities that slip through your fingers. You may interpret this as abandonment, but heaven often protects through subtraction. God sometimes removes you from rooms that are not built to hold the weight of who you are becoming. He closes doors that would have crushed you had they opened too soon. What feels like rejection is often divine redirection. Think of Lazarus. In John 11, Jesus intentionally delayed coming to him. To the human eye, it looked like neglect. But Scripture reveals that the delay was not death, it was a setup. Jesus said, "This sickness will not end in death. It is for God's glory." The silence was not the end of the story. It was the stage for a miracle greater than anyone expected. In your own life, God may be withholding certain answers, relationships, or positions because he is protecting you from outcomes you cannot yet see. His silence does not mean absence. His delay does not mean denial. Often, it is mercy disguised as quiet. Third, hidden seasons expose what must be healed. When God hides you, he is not only shaping your future, he is revealing what still needs healing. In the quiet places, without applause or distraction, the deeper layers of your heart rise to the surface. Old wounds you once avoided begin to speak. Insecurities you masked under busyness suddenly become visible. Ambition, comparison, and the craving for validation lose their hiding places. And though this exposure feels uncomfortable, it is a mercy. God will not elevate what woundedness could later destroy. Consider Joseph. Before he ever wore Pharaoh's ring, he walked through betrayal, captivity, and prison. Each downward step exposed pride, taught humility, and stripped away dependence on human approval. Yet Scripture testifies that The Lord was with Joseph. God's presence did not prevent the hidden season, it transformed it. In your life, God may be allowing isolation so that unresolved pain can finally be addressed. He brings to light what could sabotage your calling if left untouched. Hiddenness becomes holy ground where healing begins. Identity is restored, and your soul is strengthened for what lies ahead. Fourth, God uses hidden places to prepare you for greater battles. There are victories God intends for your life victories that require strength you do not yet know you need. And so, He takes you into the quiet places, not to weaken you, but to train you. Hidden seasons are battlegrounds disguised as isolation. They are where you fight the lions and bears before ever standing before a Goliath. What feels small, repetitive, and unnoticed may be the very training ground for your future assignment. David understood this intimately. He told Saul that before he ever faced the giant, he had already fought predators in the shadows of the pasture. No audience, no applause. Just a shepherd and his God. It was in that obscurity that courage was forged, and that same courage later shook a nation. You may think your current challenges are insignificant, but God is building a warrior within you. Every unseen prayer, every private struggle, every quiet victory is preparing you for a battle that will not be fought in the dark, but in the open, for His glory. And finally, number 5, hiddenness separates you from what is not meant to go with you. One of the most misunderstood gifts of God is separation. When He hides you, He often allows certain relationships, habits, environments, and even identities to fall away. Not because you are unworthy of connection, but because not everything is meant to walk with you into the next season. Hiddenness becomes a divine filter removing what will hinder your calling, preserving what will strengthen it. Look at Abraham. Before God revealed the fullness of His promise, He said, "Leave your country, your people, and your father's household." Separation preceded revelation. Abraham had to step away from familiar voices so he could hear God's voice clearly. In the same way, there are connections God gently loosens, not to break your heart, but to make space for destiny-aligned relationships. So if certain people have drifted or opportunities have faded, do not assume you are being abandoned. Sometimes God subtracts to make room. Sometimes He isolates to clarify. And sometimes He hides you, so you will finally stop clinging to what was only meant to be temporary. You may not realize it now, but this hidden season is sacred. It is not the end of your story, only the quiet chapter where God writes the parts that will sustain you later. When you feel unseen, He is shaping your heart. When you feel forgotten, He is protecting your purpose. When doors close, He is redirecting your steps. And when silence surrounds you, His voice is still working beneath the surface, guiding you in ways you cannot yet perceive. Every figure God greatly used walked through a season like yours, David, in the pasture, Joseph in the prison, Moses in the wilderness, Paul in Arabia, and even Jesus in 30 years of obscurity. You are not behind. You are not overlooked. You are being prepared. So lift your head, strengthen your heart, and trust the process your Father has designed. The hidden season is evidence of calling, not the absence of it. And in the right time, God will reveal what He has been building in the dark.